Thank you for joining me on my next iteration of videos from what I've learned in the, the conference room. This next topic is about fear. But first, I want to thank everyone for their positive responses and the overwhelming cheer that you've given me to continue conducting these videos. I'd like to start today by discussing fear. And fear is a huge impact to how we operate within a business. So let me start by a quote from Nelson Mandela. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers the fear, said Nelson Mandela. So let me review the outcomes I'm looking for today. Fear leads to bad decisions. Ego is a hard thing to overcome. I want to go through some examples from being in the session room and how they tie to the 6 components, and then how do we in fact run towards that fear. The famed philosopher Yoda said, "Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hatred, and hatred leads to much suffering." That couldn't be more prominent than today's time. I want to give you some context. EOS is all about vision, traction, and healthy. And healthy is about turning into the fear and running straight at it. The impact of fear is that fear still lives within the organization when employees are afraid to speak up. Mid-managers are afraid to make decisions. People are unclear about roles, process, or expectations. Or you notice in yourself, your ego gets in the way. You don't want to show your vulnerability, and as a result, you actually make poor decisions for the business. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Do the thing you fear the most, and the death of fear is certain." So let me go through those 6 components, or a few examples within the 6 components of EOS and how that impacts people. I had an owner of a radio company, and they were unwilling to address an individual that was performing poorly. They keep withstanding the fact that they didn't meet goals, they weren't accomplishing rocks or to-dos. The impact was the overall company didn't achieve their goals. They were spending more time and more money trying to pad that individual. As a result, not only were the goals not achieved, but A players started to leave because they wanted a higher level of accountability and results. The second example comes from an industrial distributor. They had a fear of losing control, and as a result, didn't put in the right procedures. As a result, the owner became burnt out. The teams didn't bring ideas in fear of being shut down, and the team didn't achieve the goals. So that fear of not wanting to lose control actually impacted the entire team, and the goals were not achieved. My third example comes from an investment bank. The individual wanted better financials and better results. However, when they wanted other people to sell and to do that work, that individual who had 25 years of experience didn't actually want to teach how he had gone about being a better salesperson, how he went out into the community, how he connected with owners of businesses. And as a result, the financial goals weren't hit. The owner was frustrated. The team didn't learn how to accomplish things, and the best individuals began leaving the business. As Napoleon Hill said, fears are nothing more than a state of mind. So, how do we in fact go about correcting those roadblocks? First, we can pull out high-level concerns. Think about the concerns you have when you are experiencing fears, or if you see fears of others, what are they afraid of? Is it missing goals? Will we experience layoffs? Are we holding people accountable? Or are we concerned that holding people accountable means that people won't like us? You want to validate concerns. Oftentimes, there's some truth to their concerns. Why are they significant? What's the impact? And can you see why they have that high level of concern? You want to address what is in your control and identify what is out of your control. Lay the boundaries of choice and explore the boundaries and the solutions that you can have within those boundaries. So, as my son who overheard this said, if you have fear, you can do a lot of things and ask yourself a lot of questions or ask others within the organization. If all else fails, you can bring up a squishy ball and just squeeze it a lot to get that fear out. Better yet, from Chris Voss, the author of Never Split the Difference, ego is a deal killer. In leadership, the quickest way to lose your team or a client is to protect yourself instead of protecting the relationship. Thanks for joining me on this video, and I appreciate all the positive feedback that you've been getting. Thank you so much.